scholarships to students worldwide and change the world. Now, more than ever, new insights, tools, strategies, and capabilities are needed. This is your chance for a major presentation to the world. Fill out the form and join the more than 2,000 speakers who have presented to over 200 countries. Join the Black Business Network streaming live into the Metaverse, STEM City, Black Multiverse Enterprises, Hulu, Amazon, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Apple, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pod TV, IBM TV, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Sign up today. Spaces are limited, and we will see you there.
Hi, I'm Barbara Smith. Genius is common. My genius is executive coaching and professional corporate training. As the master executive coach and corporate training ambassador for the Genius is Common movement, I help business owners craft their stories in such a way that you know exactly what they do, what they have, and what they bring to the table. Many times as business owners, we are asked, so what do you do for a living? And we could be crushing in our businesses, but we're not quite sure exactly what to say in a short amount of time. Well, I help you take those stories that are the reason why you're in business and why you're so passionate about your business and craft them in such a way that people are drawn to you, as opposed to being repelled by you. Because every conversation, every time you talk to someone about your business, you are excited about it. But are you really conveying what you do, what you have, and what you bring to the table? And do really people understand why you care so much and why they should care that you have the solution to their problem? Well, I'm here to help you with that. As a master storyteller, I can help you with your stories and spin them in such a way that they are intriguing and fascinating. People want to listen to you talk about your business. That's why at the Genius is Common movement, I am the master executive coach and professional training ambassador. That's my genius. And genius? Oh yeah, it's common.
I am Black Business. From the moment I wake until the time I sleep. Yes, I am Black Business. I am Black Business. Tell me, are you Black Business? I am Black Business. Do you support Black businesses? Listen, I support Black business because I am Black Business. Black Business Expo, one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black business in the world. The world! Sign up today at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com or call 919-308-9090. I am Black Business.
Good morning, business owners, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and corporations. Welcome to the Black Business Network. My name is Andrea Adams, and I am your business moderator for this morning on the Black Business Network. The Black Business Network is a 24-hour business network showcasing Black businesses, business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders worldwide. We have speakers from North Carolina, London, Singapore, Africa, Japan, and cities all over the United States. The Black Business Network is a global community sharing its business knowledge to empower, inspire, and educate businesses about business. I am your next speaker. I am an ICF accredited coach in mindset, communication.
Sometimes you got to hear the news from the Black perspective, and more specifically, Black publishers. And that's exactly why you have to download the HeyTie app, the largest mobile app delivering breaking news, videos, and podcasts from 200 of your favorite Black publishers. Yes, 200 Black publishers delivering news as it happens, literally all in one app. Go to HAYTI.com or download the app in the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. It's completely free, along with information that you can trust, so go check them out.
Hello, I'm Dr. Madeline Ann Lewis, President and CEO of the Executive Women's Success Institute. And my genius is helping women accelerate the path to success. You know, I was blessed to have strong women in my life who encouraged, motivated, and pushed me to do my best and to never even think about giving up on my dreams. So I say to women, we must show up to rise up. We have talents and potential, but who will see them if we don't speak up and get noticed? I know that women are a tremendous resource on this planet, and there is nothing more fulfilling than helping a woman tap into her full potential. I do this because I want to be a part of helping as many women as I can to show up, to rise up. I do this because genius is common.
Hey guys, my name is Caden. I'm the CEO of Caden Teaches, and my genius is teaching kids about financial literacy. Throughout my financial products, such as my financial flashcards, my activity book, and my newest project, my financial bus, which I bought. And on the bus, it has a mock bank where kids will learn how to deposit and withdraw money, a mock grocery store where kids will be able to learn how to have a family budget, and a mock stock exchange where kids will even be able to learn how to invest in stocks. Now, I decided to start teaching kids about financial literacy because I find that most kids graduate high school without even knowing the basics about financial literacy. And I feel if I were to teach kids about financial literacy, that I would be able to help kids tap into their genius. And I actually learned about financial literacy to my dad because I would go to business meetings with him, and I would always see that they were talking about financial literacy. And at that point, I didn't understand what financial literacy was. So I took it upon myself to learn about financial literacy and teach it to kids in a way that they could understand. But I want you guys to help me help kids tap into their genius by going to my website, cadenteaches.com, and you can sew into me in my financial bus by going to my GoFundMe link. And remember, if Caden can, you can too, because genius is common.
I am Black business. From the moment I wake until the time I sleep. Yes, I am Black business. I am Black business. Tell me, are you Black business? I am Black business. Do you support Black businesses? Listen, I support Black business because I am Black business. Black Business Expo. one of the largest business showcases in the history of Black business in the world. The world! Sign up today at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com or call 919-308-9090. I am Black Business.
What if you could build your own city? A place where every child can find nurturing people to help them achieve their full potential. A place where every adult can access job training support, where health education is abundant, where social justice ruled the land. A place without limitations.
Good morning, business owners, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and corporations. Welcome to the Black Business Network. My name is Andrea Adams, and I am your business moderator for this morning on the Black Business Network. The Black Business Network is a 24-hour business network showcasing Black businesses, business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders worldwide. We have speakers from North Carolina, London, Singapore, Africa, Japan, and cities all over the United States. The Black Business Network is a global community sharing its business knowledge to empower, inspire, and educate businesses about business. Our next speaker is Dr. Curtis Charles. With over 15 years of experience in higher education, leadership, and data science, Dr. Charles is currently an EdTech Impact Practitioner at BDAI, where he helps colleagues in universities leverage artificial intelligence, machine learning, predictive analytics, and cloud computing technologies to improve their enrollment, retention, graduation, and operational outcomes. He is also a MIT certified data scientist and senior lecturer in data science and Dean of Academic Affairs at the University of the West Indies, Five Islands campus. His mission is to use data-driven insights and innovative solutions to address the complex and strategic challenges faced by higher education institutions in the 21st century. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Curtis Charles. Dr. Charles, we would love to hear you. Can you open up that mic for us? Thank you.
Yes, I'm sorry. That has happened so many times. Thank you so much for inviting me this morning. I'm looking forward to the discussion. It's always a pleasure to join my buddy Grant. And I'm just happy to be here this morning. Thank you so much.
Genius is coming, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you.
Well, here we are again. Dr. Curtis, how are you doing this morning?
I am excellent, sir. Excellent. Glad to be alive this morning.
Yes, that's always good during the holiday season. And we've had in-depth conversations. I am so blessed to be able to make your acquaintance this year, 2023. We've had great conversation around where we are going, where we're headed as a humanity into the digital world, into the future, in a world that is transforming right in front of our eyes. One thing I love about what you're doing at your university with your background, you're making sure that we can compete in this new economy. And you put together an interesting program around interdisciplinary or disciplinary approaches that kind of takes a lot of different areas of study and forge them together to become a platform of experience. Talk to us a little bit more about what you're doing there in the islands.
Yes, thank you so much, Grant. Thank you so much. So first of all, I'm with the University of the West Indies, Five Island campus. The University of the West Indies is celebrating its 75th anniversary this year, and we are a system of 50,000 students. We're the latest campus that was given birth in 2019. And over the last 4 years or so, we have had 350% enrollment growth. There's extreme need in the region. We're in the Eastern Caribbean, or what some people call the OECS region. And when we started the campus, there were three schools: the School of Health and Behavioral Sciences, the School of Business and Management, and the School of Humanities and Education. I just come from Microsoft, where was consulting with university presidents and the C-suites about how they digitally transform the campuses, how they use artificial intelligence and machine learning to increase competitiveness. So it was natural for me to propose that we start a unique school in the Caribbean and Latin American region. I think we have the only School of Science, Computing, and Artificial Intelligence. So once we started the school, it was natural to go to what I consider the technology mecca. As you know, I'm a graduate of MIT, and I'm always looking to see what MIT is doing in terms of technology and innovation. And one of my colleagues introduced me to this new BSc program, which is an interdisciplinary degree in economics, data science, computer science, and management. And so I worked with the colleagues for a while, and I approached them. I said, look, we have this new university. We would love to work with you to develop a similar program just for our economic climate. And it was interesting. We worked probably about six to 8 months developing this program, and we specifically wanted it to be interdisciplinary, because the reality about interdisciplinary is that no longer are employees just looking for one dimension. Employers are looking for employees with interdisciplinary domain knowledge in fields like data science, innovation management, economics, computer science. And it's in great demand in corporations, government agencies such as healthcare, finance, tourism. And let me give you an example of how this will use. I mean, the Caribbean is prone to hurricanes. So a government needs to know what's the liquidity after a hurricane. So after a level 5 hurricane, what money does the government need to predict in advance to do that? So a data scientist will look at data trends for like the last 10 years. That person will then use algorithms to get deep insights into the data. Once they do that, they will then projectize that, which is then the innovation management, in order to understand the economic impact on the country. So now instead of graduating students one-dimensional, you're graduating students with multi-disciplines that could come in and transform either a government, transform a company, transform an agency. So it is really important that we're graduating students at a higher level to come out and transform industries and governments right away.
Man, so this is where we're going. You're preparing us for the now, because that is a now situation.
Yeah.
And how we're going to deal with things just like climate change. And the
Yes.
hurricanes obviously have increased here lately, but the impacts have been quite catastrophic. So that is very good. The thing that we're realizing now, especially in the last decade or so, is that the digital platform economy is the dominant economy. When you start looking at who's leading the Fortune 500 companies, who's leading the NASDAQ and the stock exchange, and you everybody knows these names. These are the Googles of the world, the Amazons of the world, the Microsoft, and so forth. How are you preparing our students to understand and compete in this digital platform economy?
Great question. It is always important to me as educators that we look at the trends. If we look at the top 10 international companies, 8 out of them are platform economies. And I'll just list some as you talk about: Alibaba from China, Apple Computers, Microsoft, Amazon. These are all platform economies economies. They are transforming governments, they're transforming economies. Even Uber, Netflix, these are all platform economies. They're not traditional companies like we knew in the last 5 or 6 years, but the platform developing students who could compete in that marketplace. So we ask our question, why would we prepare students to design the virtual marketplaces of the future? So we look at statistics like from McKinsey. McKinsey Consultant estimate that more than 30% of the global economic activity, some $60 trillion, could be mediated by digital platform economy in the next 6 years. As a region, the Caribbean cannot be sitting at the side when $60 trillion is transacted on platform economies. So to be able to develop students and prepare them with this interdisciplinary degree for the platform economy of the future is extremely important, not only for the students' development, but for the Caribbean region development. We have to be able to transform our governments and transform our agencies and economies based on the platform economies that's basically taking over the world. So it's important that we do that. And that's how we develop in our students. In the School of Science, Computing, and Artificial Intelligence, that interdisciplinary degree in data science, innovation management, and computer science, we have a whole cadre of students who are being prepared for the platform economy. But not only that, a student in business could come and be participating in that. A student in nursing, in the healthcare could come and participate in that. A student in education could come and, because all these industries, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, whether it's business, they are all being transformed by the marketplace economy.
That is so true. And I read some of your papers that you have written and that you've shared with me, is that if we continue to train like we have been, we're going to find ourselves without a job.
Yes.
Because it's just changing so rapidly. You showed me this list of what the jobs are. They're going to be in demand.
Yes.
In the next, especially now, 12 months, 18 months, 3 to 5 years, and what the jobs that will no longer be available. Everybody's talking about this, like, is AI taking my job? Well, it depends on what you're doing. But remember, yes, for every job that's taken, 5 more are created. Yes. But are you prepared for those jobs? Help us understand marketplace and where this is all going, what we need to really be concentrating on to be valuable in this new economy.
You know, when we started our school, and remember, we were born in 2019, which was the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, which is, we're talking about the collision of biological, physical, and cyber systems. We're talking about artificial intelligence, machine learning, Internet of Things. So we could not ignore when we were born. So we asked a simple question. What will the future look like for the University of the West Indies 5 Island digital learners? What would the future look like? And how would the Eastern Caribbean be transformed? So we went to Microsoft Research and we looked at some statistics. And 65% of students in grade schools will perform jobs that have not even been invented yet. 65%. 45% of current jobs are expected to be taken over by machines during the next 2 decades. 6.5 million new IT jobs by 2022 last year was in cloud-related technology fields. Only 33% of the world's demand of employees with technology skills is being met. And the percentage of jobs requiring technology skills will increase by 77% in less than a decade. When we look at those type of statistics from Microsoft Research, we had to ask ourselves, what will the future look like for University of the West Indies 5 Island campus digital learners? And it's important that we call them digital learners because that's who they are. So what we decided to do is that we looked at different statistics. We went to the Economic Forum, which is what everybody looks at. In the Economic Forum, almost all the top 10 jobs in the next decade or so have data in it. Almost all the top 10 jobs. Number 1 is data analytics and scientists. Number 2, AI machine learning specialist. Number 3, analytics, then digital marketing and strategy specialists, then process automation specialists, then business development professionals, digital transformation specialists, information technology analysts, software and application development, Internet of Things specialists. When we look at that, we had to say, how are we going to then transform our academic offerings? And how are we going to build new academic programs so we could develop students for the future of work? Not for the present of work, for the future of work. Because the students need to be able to compete internationally. No longer is this just a localized market in the Eastern Caribbean and in the Caribbean itself, but how do our students transform the Caribbean but also compete internationally?
Wow. All these things beg major development, major mind shift changes.
Yes.
I like how you just said that you're not just competing in your local or your regional market. You are in a worldwide landscape.
Yes.
And your capabilities crosses culture.
Yes.
So they're going to look to, what are your capabilities? What do you have in your spectrum that can help us to advance and advance rapidly? I like what you're doing. Talk to us more about the impact. People need to understand it. The impact of this generative AI, and we're gonna just bring this down to a vertical. We're gonna talk about the healthcare vertical.
Yeah.
I know you've written some things around the pharmacy industry.
Yes.
Talk to us about how this is going to morph and change rapidly in your eyes.
Well, if we look just at the healthcare industry, there is no industry. There are two industries being transformed at warp speed: finance and healthcare. And we know that right now on Wall Street, there are stocks being selected by algorithms, right? That's written. And in some instances, it's more accurate than human beings. In terms of healthcare, when we thought about how we address healthcare within the region, we looked at COVID and we learned a lot of lessons from COVID, right? The first thing I think I learned from COVID, we looked at is the speed at which a vaccine was created. Listen, we know that the reason why drugs are very expensive is because it's very finance intensive and it takes a long time to develop a drug. That was before generative AI, and that was before big data analytics, and that was before cloud computing. We developed a drug in 2 years for COVID. 2 years vaccine, 2 years. Now, that didn't happen in isolation. That happened because we were able to scan the hemisphere and see who is doing research on what, run algorithms to see whether it could attack the virus, pull that information together, get deep insights, and then develop a drug. When we saw that, we said, look, there's a shortage of pharmacists that's impacting our healthcare in the Eastern Caribbean. We needed to have more pharmacists in the region. So I was approached to develop a new pharmacy program for the campus. And as a campus that's looking at cutting out that niche of artificial intelligence, where people of all ages and all hemispheres will be able to come to Antigua to study artificial intelligence, we thought that, look, instead of developing a pharmacy program, we want to develop a generative pharmacy program. It's one of its kind. I believe it's the first generative pharmacy program that has ever been created. It's going through the approval process now, and we're going to be offering it next fall. But when we look at what are the benefits of generative pharmacy will accelerate drug discovery, like we talk about. It will personalize medication treatment regimen just for you. So by looking at your DNA, we could now develop a drug just for Grant or just for Curtis. It could reduce the cost. But collaboration between scientists, data experts, and regulatory are key in the success. It is not just a one-dimensional field. It needs to basically collaborate. But let's look at pharmacy compounding. It optimizes formulation, right? How does it optimize formulation? AI can analyze data sets to determine the best compound combination for individual patients, taking into account factors of pattern of medication, history, genetics, potential, drug interaction, all that now we have the ability to create in the Caribbean. What it means is that we're not only developing a different type of pharmacist, but we're developing an industry. Now we can look at the potential of encouraging drug companies to develop and invest in this university and in this program, so that they could not only recruit our students, but they could also help in investing in Antigua and Barbuda and the Eastern Caribbean in developing a drug industry. Let's just take marijuana. Marijuana have almost 100 different compounds that we haven't even explored because it's expensive. These are all cures for medications that we could do. We could use artificial intelligence to run those algorithms to get deep insights in terms of developing new drugs. And marijuana is just one of the tip of the iceberg. You know that in the Caribbean and in our diasporic, throughout the diaspora, the old people have all type of bush medicine or all type of local medicine, the local medicine that we could use. We haven't touched the surface of examining those local cures that we could then commercialize and build industries. You know, one of my colleagues said, you know, this is like reversing the brain drain. So instead of basically having folks come to the US or go to other places and study, now they could come to the Caribbean, they could stay in the Caribbean, develop these industries. So for us, it's really important, especially in the healthcare industry, that we look at pharmacy, we look at generative pharmacy, not only to create new drugs, but to create new type of patient care. What is the different type of patient care we're going to develop for our culture that is designed not only for our culture, but is going to be consistent and could be used in other parts of the diaspora? So we are very much looking at the front, looking forward. We're not looking where we are. We're looking forward. We are not a university that says we want to replicate what another university is doing. We believe that the fact that we are new and we are agile and we could align with industry and we could expand access to students who hadn't been able to have access to education. We are not expanding access just for access sake. We are expanding access to prepare them for the future of work. And that's what I think excites me about where I am in terms of giving back to the Caribbean, bringing all this cornucopia of information and data from Microsoft and IBM and serving as every level of a university to build that capacity and expand the dreams of these young people, these young Black folks that looks just like you and I. We are about transforming the region and transforming the world.
I tell you, Dr. Curtis, just spoke to something that's very dear to my heart, that our young people, our next generation up, getting them the exposure to this new economy, the digital technology, and not be intimidated by it, yes. Understanding that they're touching it every day. Give us a layman's understanding, because my mother even asked me, it's like, well, what is this algorithm? I don't understand. What is that in a way that I can totally understand what you're talking about? Give us the definition.
Yes, excellent. So a layman's term of algorithms are basically instructions. So if I want to tell you, this happens to us all the time. You're in a foreign town and you lost. And you stop at the corner to get instructions. So the guy, let me give you Caribbean colloquial. The guy will say, you see that big tree down there? Drive to the big tree. Make a left at the big tree. Once you make a left, you're going to make a right at the parlor. And at the parlor, you're then going to see at the end of the cul-de-sac a big house, and that's where you need to go. Those are instructions. That wasn't just giving you an algorithm to get from point A to point B. So the algorithm in big data analytics is that we are writing something to look for insights. So I'm telling I'm writing a program that says, please look at this historical data of 10 years and find me the clusters of people who were ill with diabetes, right? I'm writing an instruction that says, look at 10 years data and find the similarities of patients who had diabetes over 10 years. What that insight could then give us is to be able to say, well, okay, again, in colloquial terms, if I'm looking at, I'm from Trinidad, if I'm looking at Trinidad, it may be that all those people were from the eastern part of the country, right? So we ask in the algorithm, I'm writing an instructions to look at 10 years data of diabetes patients in Trinidad and cluster where they were from. Now, if I realize that the majority of the insights are in Arima, the eastern part of the country, then now what we have is information that we could say, well, maybe it's something in the food, maybe it's something in the water. Now it gives us information. So algorithms is all about seeking patterns and trends to give us insights so we could make decisions. That's what an algorithm is. It's not a black box. It's an algorithm. So for example, there's an algorithm when you go to Amazon. The algorithm in Amazon says, look at buyers when they come to you, when they come to the platform, and seek the pattern of what they're buying. And if they're buying Vicks VapoRub, it is possible that somebody at the house is sick. So we could then push ads to them of local doctors within the area. Now take that information and cluster for me everybody who buys Vicks VapoRub in North Carolina. So if we realize that now the algorithm is telling us there are 1 million people buying Vicks VapoRub in October in North Carolina, in Fayetteville, then we know that there's probably an outbreak of the cold. And that is how algorithms operate. So every time you go to Amazon right now, you might see that Amazon is pushing you something related to the cold. It might be because you've been buying Vicks VapoRub often. So algorithms is all about giving instructions. Drive to the big tree, make a left. After you make a left, you're going to see the parlor. By that parlor down the street is the house you're going to go to. We are telling the algorithms the same thing. We are saying seek the information and bring back data to us that we can make decisions. The algorithms are not making decisions for you. The algorithms are gleaning insights into the data, and you would then make data-informed decisions from that. Just like the guy giving you the directions is not making a decision for you. He's not driving. You are driving. But he's giving you the data so that you can make an informed decisions. And that's algorithm 101.
I love that. See, and if you really peel back what you just said, this is why it's so important for us. Because whoever is writing the instructions,
yes,
if they are unaware of certain data, certain understanding. So if you have one complete culture that's writing all this data, or a company that's writing all these algorithms, and they are not interested in things outside of their purview, things that don't align with their value systems, you can see why that is skewed. Right?
Oh, wow.
Right?
I mean, you just made the case as to why everybody watching this interaction throughout the diaspora needs to be involved in AI and data science. Because one of the major issues we have is bias in the data. And the reason why, for example, in face recognition, we are assumed that we are convict, right? Because of the color of our skin, it is assumed that we are convict. So the person writing the algorithm is coming to the algorithm with that bias because they're not one of us. And that is my mission at the University of West Indies 5 Island campus, is that the more data scientists we can produce, the more folks that's interested in analytics and understanding deep data or artificial intelligence, the more of us could be involved in writing those algorithms so that we could have a less biased outcome of the things that impact our Black society, whether it's business or not. If you're in business and if you listen to this conversation, you think this is an education conversation, I'm sorry, this is a business conversation, because education is all about business. Because what we're trying to do is to prepare and sensitize. You said something earlier which was important. Before we apply any of this, there has to be a change management attitude, right? Because, Grant, we are talking about moving the comfort level of people, right? We're talking about shifting your cheese. We're saying that, look, if you are doing X, Y, and Z and it's not productive, we could show you how to use data and analytics to be much more productive. That means that you have to change your mindset a little bit, right? If we're saying that, look, in order to attract new customers, you instead of sending out surveys and instead of sending out postcards, now what we could do is to buy data, run algorithms on that data, so you can see the patterns and trends and behaviors of the people within that sampling that you could now target. Listen, the best example I could give you is when President Barack won the election. Look, these guys mastered targeting algorithms. They knew who was willing to listen to a Barack speech and who had the propensity of changing their mind. That is talking about deep algorithm insights so that you can make decisions. So this wasn't a guess game, and that was the difference between him and his opponent. When the Republicans was looking at, well, let's just market and we will get the middle. No, they weren't only interested in the middle. They were interested in who in the middle had the propensity to change their minds. And that was by looking at the patterns and trends and behaviors of the people in the middle. And that is what is called precision marketing or precision politics. Just like how we have precision education and precision medicine. You use the data to give you the insights.
That's it. The precision is so important, and the speed of getting that information. So if you can get it, if it's precise and it's accurate, then you can utilize it quicker.
Yes.
And that is the key. We got a few minutes here before we leave. I want you to talk about, you've got a conference coming up here in 2024. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you so much. So one of the culmination of this of what we're talking about and in terms of education is that we're going to have the first premier research conference in the Caribbean. Look, I just posted something online. It's an opportunity to give yourself a gift for the holidays, a gift of vacationing while being engaged in an intellectual discussion on artificial intelligence. We are looking at it's July the 8th to the 10th. We have a pre-conference on the 8th that looks at a deep dive into generative AI. What is generative AI? We also on that day going to have a ministerial panel of all the ministers in the region who have a education, digital transformation, and stuff. And then we also going to have a dance of generative AI. The dance of generative AI, which happens parallel on the 8th and the 9th and the 10th, is how do we use generative AI to create new music throughout the diaspora, new dance, new performing and fine arts, new ways of creating art. That is going to be happening parallel to this. So it's July the 8th to the 10th, and it's in Antigua. You can't beat that. It's reasonable price. We didn't want to make a huge profit, but what we wanted to do was to bring the diaspora to Antigua, because we believe that when you look at many of the colleges, when you look at the many Black colleges as well, we believe that we are an option as well. We believe that Antigua and Barbuda has one of the lowest crimes anywhere in the Caribbean and the hemisphere. But if you think about coming to one place and you want to understand artificial intelligence that's focused, we believe that this is a place to be. So we are bringing together scholars from all over the world. Again, what we're trying to focus on is how could we digitally transform the Caribbean in an age of generative AI and the fifth industrial revolution. So we encourage everyone to be there. If you need more information, you can go to our website, which is Five Island Campus.uwi, and there's a banner there that you could get more information. You could follow me on LinkedIn and get more information as well. You could follow me on Instagram at Dr. Curtis Charles UWI, and we can give you more information. But it is a place that you want to be next July 8th to the 10th in Antigua and Barbuda.
Oh man, I can't wait to be there. It's an opportunity to first the collaboration and the networking is so important to get like-minded people with the purpose. We must bring together our resources, our intellectual resources, together in a collective. It's like, how can we move the ball forward and be ready as we morph and change into this entirely new environment that gives everyone an opportunity if you participate in it. We're never probably not in any short amount of time have an opportunity that we have right now if we get involved. There's so much that each of us can contribute. You don't have to be a technological wizard or understand everything about technology. It's about what your expertise is in. Because if you're an expert in what you're doing, and then you talk to another expert in what they're doing, the combined expertise grows exponentially.
Yes.
And this is what we're trying to accomplish. And I figure that's what you're trying to accomplish in this particular forum, that we bring everybody together, and equally we all come away with a much more robust understanding of what can happen and what we can create going forward. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree. I mean, it is a huge networking opportunity, and I have to tell you, we are tackling all the major issues that artificial intelligence could assist in these days. We're looking at how artificial intelligence is impacting healthcare, how artificial intelligence could enhance climate change, which is the existential threat against most small island development states. We're looking at health disparity. We're looking at non-communicable diseases. COVID was bad, but listen, more people in the Caribbean and in the diaspora die of non-communicable diseases than communicable diseases. So how do we use COVID? How do we use artificial intelligence and give us a deep insight so we can develop solutions and take this forward? These are some of the issues that we're going to be talking about. And I know I mentioned just now, I can give you the direct website is fiveislandsconference.com. Easy to remember, fiveislandsconference.com. So it is important that we think about putting this on your calendar and joining us, because the topics are going to be so expansive that is going to touch every aspect of your business. But from a business perspective, if you are interested in expanding your business, if you're interested in being involved and engaged in conversations that could transform your region, this is a place to be on the 8th to the 10th. It's July the 4th weekend. So take an extended vacation. You know that it's a tax write-off if you just spend one day in a conference. So whether it's a tax write-off for you as the individual business or as a company, we think it's a place to be. We think it's really the place to be. And we would love to partner with Black Business Network to make sure that we expand and we get this message out as much as possible. I would love, as I mentioned to you, to see some interviews in real time coming out of each panel. Things that you normally see. Serena just won the world tennis champion. She pulled to room and there's an interview with the press. It will be great if we could partner with Black Business Network to do something like that, so that the diaspora sees what is happening as well.
Well, I'd love to be the moderator for that particular session.
Excellent.
To listen, because this, man, I just know that this is a change in our history. It could be the change. Everybody's going, I remember when this happened. that they'll be talking back to this. So this is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful opportunity to grow and expand. And I want to talk to Dr. Charles when he gets back, because you need to understand what you have in the room as far as experience and exposure. We have someone who's been exposed to very intellectual people, very successful minds and institutions, such as MIT, such as Microsoft. You've been in the same room as the developers and owners of OpenAI. OpenAI is what created ChatGPT, and you knew these individuals before they became household names here right now. Talk to us about that experience a little bit.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was an amazing experience. So, probably about 2010, 2012, somewhere around there, I was the Oak Ridge Associated University, as Oak Ridge Associated Lab, as you know, is where the atomic bomb was created. Is one of the Department of Defense energy labs, and out of that, after that occurred, they created what is called Oak Ridge Associated Universities, which is 112 Research One universities. But it also include all the HBCUs and HMIs, and I was the chair of the HBCU HMI Council, and we were really interested in incubating businesses coming out of HBCUs and HMIs. So we reached out to Y Combinator. Y Combinator right now was and still continues to be one of the most important incubators in the country. They've done a great job so far. Sam was the CEO of Y Combinator, and we just my philosophy in life is it's better to try and fail than to fail to try. So I just reached out to Sam Altman and his partner and said, well, we would love for you to have a meeting with some of the universities, and if you could come down, that'll be great. Man, we were blown away. I mean, we didn't know who he was. We just know that we wanted to have a relationship with Y Combinator. He said, look, I think it was a weekend. He said, look, I could fly down. I think he flew down on a jet the weekend, met us at Oak Ridge Associated Lab, and we had a great conversation. I mean, I was inches away from this guy, real humble, big heart. He was open to help us as much as I unfortunately I transitioned to a higher leadership position just after that. But they came down and they had a conversation with us for about 2.5 hours. I mean, this guy took 2.5 hours out of his schedule to fly down to come and talk to us about innovation. What is the leading cutting edge technologies that was happening in Silicon Valley, and how Black universities could get involved. I mean, he was absolutely genuine. He dressed the same way that he dressed right now, unassuming. You didn't know who he was. But this guy is brilliant. I mean, so when he moved to OpenAI, and I think I was still with Microsoft when Satya and him signed an agreement, I knew something big was going to happen, because these are two huge minds. I mean, I think Satya Nadella is by far one of the top tech executives coming out of in the US right now, and I think Sam Altman is almost the same. But it was incredible. It was an incredible opportunity to say, I sat across from this guy, took photographs with him, and here's one of the big thought leader in generative AI. So we came away from that discussion really pumped, and I think for me, it uplifted me and basically put me on a trajectory as to where I am, which is really leading in that area as it relates to education and consulting to businesses through Microsoft and IBM. And for me, after that meeting, I was also responsible for what we call the Center for Defense and Homeland Security at Fayetteville State University. Brought in millions of dollars to the university. And the lessons that we learned from Sam Altman, we were able to implement it in the Center for Defense and Homeland Security. And the Center for Defense and Homeland Security was responsible for training the next generation of Black and Brown national security executives to address issues of compelling interest to the security of the United States. So we dealt very closely with them. Well, it took me to working as a vice president for research and development at RLM Communications, which is a Black-owned defense contractor in Fayetteville that is very, very successful. Randy Moore. I mean, this brother was able to take us from the brain dump that we had from Saul Altman, help us establish the Center for Defense and Homeland Security. And then for me, it was natural for working with him to help him build his artificial intelligence and machine learning and data analytics so that he could offer these services to the Department of Defense. So that meeting paid off hugely for the university, the HBCU universities and MSIs. But for me personally, it took me on a trajectory that I have been on a ride from then. But it has been in a capacity of giving back. I mean, I as I told you in our interview, I love education. But I love what I do, like the air that we breathe. The ability to develop the next generation artificial intelligence experts that looks like you and I has been always a motivation for me. The ability to develop the next generation national security executives. Listen, you have to understand that the national security that ties to AI, the people who were running those things 5 or 6 years ago were all baby boomers, and they are all retiring. As the baby boomers retire, somebody has to fill that gap. It is a place that we as Black folks have always been not involved in a big scale. What we were trying to do at Fayetteville State University is to develop that next generation so that we could move those students into national security. So that means that if you need a security clearance and you want to do artificial intelligence, you can't jaywalk, right? You have to live a certain life so that you could get a top secret clearance so that you could get the types of jobs. So for us, it has always been, how do we live on the edge of education, right? How do we educate the next step? How do we educate the future? How do we empower our young Black men and women so that they know that this is not just a world in technology that doesn't look like them, that is white, or that has a different pigmentation, but that there's nothing different in what they can do. And I think that's what is beautiful with what I do right now. There's no difference. I instill that in our students right now. There's no difference between them and what the founders of Facebook did. The only difference is that he dropped out. I mean, that's the only difference. The reality is that they have the same ability. The other difference, as you mentioned just now, is mindset change. Look, Grant, when I grew up in the Caribbean, if you did something wrong and you're wrong your grandmother, she might pelt the shoes behind you, right? The mentality is that failure was bad, right? Mm-hmm. Failure in Silicon Valley is celebrated. You get more money because somebody else is not going to do that. So our students are afraid to fail. Mm-hmm. And what I try to tell them is what Satya Nadella instilled in us while I was at Microsoft. Fail, but fail fast and recover and learn from it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the lesson for Black businesses. Fail fast. Don't be afraid to fail. Fail fast, recover, learn from it, and move on. Be able to have within your organization a mindset, a growth mindset. And I think that's one of the other things I learned from Microsoft. We have to have a growth mindset. And that growth mindset means that you're going to fail fast, recover, move on, learn from it. You have to have that great mindset also among your students if you're in education, but also among your employees. Don't have a hammer if your employees fail. Let them fail, because that is then going to ignite innovation within your company. But let them fail fast, learn from it, and move forward. Your company must have a growth mindset.
Absolutely. Leadership and innovation go hand in hand with this new digital economy that's taking place. And because of certain tools, you can fail faster and you can model things easier than you could before when it was very expensive to fail.
Yes.
Wow, you know.
Yes.
Now you can do certain things in pilots. There's so many different incubators out there that you can try these things out and see where you're at and what you're willing to invest and what you're willing to do to move it to another direction. I want you to, because you have had exposure to this and we've got a certain segmented audience. Talk to us about the different Black people, Black minds, Black technologists that we're probably not even aware of that are out here doing things. You say, you know about Sam Altman, you know about Satya Nadella, you know about Zuckerberg, you know about, but we don't know about our Black technologists that are doing big things and have done big things even historically. And that gives us momentum and confidence. Like, wow, I didn't know that. I did not know that they invented that. We didn't know, like the woman that put a man on the moon was a Black woman at NASA. They called her the computer. Her brain was such a computer. Talk to us about some of those people you know.
Yes, so when Sam came down, his partner, I'm trying to remember Michael's last name, but his first name was Michael. And Michael went to Yale, sold his first company, developed his first company in his dorm, sold it, I think, for like $300 million. So Michael is now running Y Combinator. At Microsoft, there were a few Black data scientists that I knew of that's doing quite well right now. We're few and far between. And I think one of the things that I would like to do is sort of like document who are these leaders in artificial intelligence that's doing well. I mean, Dr. Moshano, Dr. M is doing great work in terms of healthcare. We both worked at Microsoft. We have a young faculty, a young doctor from Jamaica, Dr. Tulak. Dr. Tulak is looking at, and then she's OBGYN, but her passion is her research, not her passion. Her research is how to use artificial intelligence to reduce the cases of cervical cancer among women. I mean, if we could solve that, and we're working with her right now. We have four data scientists from the 4 different campuses at UWI working with her right now. We met with her last week. We were really excited. And we think that we could use our expertise to make a dent in the Caribbean in reducing cervical cancer. And it's all about the data, right? So we're all looking at what's the data available. If the data is not available, how do we then train people to mine the data so that we can get the information? But my goal is to raise that next generation of Black tech entrepreneurs who could develop the Silicon Islands of the Caribbean. And we want to be able to give our students that gumption in them to know that they can do anything. So what we try to do is to push them into a lot of hackathons. We try to tell them that every academic exercise should be something that you're thinking about commercializing. So it is important to us that they basically have that confidence. I want to dovetail back to the conference. What the conference is going to do for our students is that they are going to be able to see these Black experts and Caribbean experts from all over the world. We're bringing in Caribbean experts who are leading in, whether it's at Meta or whether it's at Google, people from the Caribbean who are going to be coming in for the conference and talking to our students about the art of the possible. That will give our students such a confidence because now they will know what is possible, not only for somebody from the Caribbean, but people from the diaspora as well, who's going to come in, who's going to be successful. We're going to be loading on the website in a few weeks, all the experts from around the world who's going to be there. That's an opportunity for our students to say, okay, you know what, I could be like that as well. So it's really important for them to see who else and what else is out there.
Without question, we have organizations that are there, and I encourage the audience to take a look at these organizations like Blacks in Technology called BIT.
Yes.
And they understand. We need to truly understand and take our place in the technological ecosystem, in the ethos. You had brought up some things around what China was doing, how these, because of where they are in their investments and where they sit within the footprint of the African diaspora.
Yes.
That there's all these influences that are there, but the greatest resource that we have is ourselves. It is our experiences and our understanding. And once we know, like, oh, this is where this is going, not because AI is all analytical, it's also creative, but it needs the creativity, the imagination, the redefinition. I love some of these stories that I've heard, like how they came up with Airbnb. Someone had to reimagine that whole industry of hospitality.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
What you need is the people.
Yes.
And then what the people need is the combinations. And how can we fulfill combinations that not are traditional hotel rooms?
Right.
And boom, and then they had an application. They didn't build new hotels, or look at Uber. They did the same thing. They reimagined, and I think we're at a point in time now with this new generation that's coming on board in leadership. We can't continue to do what we did for the last generation. The baby boomer generation had a certain experience of life that is no longer relevant today. When I look at what my children, my grandchildren, what are they inheriting, and what does that going to look like? And you can't really take books to move it forward. What do you think about that?
I think, you when you said something just now, it reminded me of a question you had just now in terms of who are the leaders, right? If I could backtail on that 1 second, if you look at our keynote speakers, right? Dr. Fuller is Trinidadian, but he's also the vice president of edge computing and automation at Microsoft. At IBM. Sorry. If we look at our next speaker, Barack Anand from India, he is the associate professor of online education at Harvard. If you look at our next speaker, which is Dr. Chris Jones, he was the Democratic candidate for Arkansas 2 years ago that went up against Huckleberry. That's going to be talking about cities of the future. These are people who are doing great things in AI. That's going to be talking about at the conference. And what we want to be able to do is to showcase much more of these. So I hope that we'll have other discussions where we could talk more about some of these speakers and what some of these Black entrepreneurs and Black innovators are doing in the industry right now.
All right. I just talked to, this is like breaking news, right? Breaking news. Just talking to Dr. Kelly, and we want to work with you on what's happening next year in Antigua with the university, with bringing everybody together. The question came up: is it going to be all? Is it all on premise, or is there a virtual component as well?
There's a virtual component as well. There's a virtual component. Yes.
Good. That helps, because we want to get as much people opportunity to engage as much as they can. If they can't be there physically, they can be there virtually. Now, this is going to be different platform discussions. Are there different sessions over 2 or 3 days?
Yes, it's going to start on October the 8th, and it's going to end on October the 10th. The pre-conference, which is going to be a deep dive into Generative AI 101. It's going to start from about 8:30 and end around 3. Then we're going to have an opening reception on the evening of the 8th, and then kick off the conference on the 8th, on the 9th, and on the 10th with different panel sessions. And as I mentioned, parallel to the panel sessions is going to be a dance with generative AI, which looks at more the art and performing arts area of how generative AI could be used. So, for example, in the Caribbean, if you're familiar with Caribbean music, soca music was generated probably like almost 30 years ago. Well, we haven't had different genres since then. Could we use artificial intelligence to create new genres of music that could basically take us to another level? Jamaica is reggae. Is there a combination of reggae and soca, or reggae and Hindi music, or something else that could take us to another level of music and arts and how we paint and how we express ourselves from a cultural perspective?
This is interesting. The one thing when I was talking, I have friends in India, and I have friends in other parts of the world, and they were talking to me about, because I asked them, you know what, in India, it seems like everybody there understands technology, mathematics at a very high level. And he was explaining to me, you have to look at this. India has a population of about, I think it was around 1.4 billion people. Yeah. However, 1.4 billion people are in an area like much smaller than the United States in area. So you can imagine the United States is about 3.5 million people. You imagine 1.4 billion people in that same area. So that's what creates all this type of intellectual intelligence, because you have to learn quickly. You have to learn quickly in an environment like that resources are scarce. And so you have to utilize what's necessary to move the needle forward.
But the important thing about that too is, there's a film that anyone listening to this should do a Google of, called 2 Million Minutes. 2 Million Minutes came out about 15 years ago, and it's a study of 2 students from China, 2 students from India, 2 students from the US. It traced 2 million minutes is how much you spend in high school. So it looks at how do you spend your 2 million minutes in high school. You could just guess right now the behaviors of the Indian students and the Chinese students. The US students would, we don't really need to study right now. I mean, we could come back. The Chinese student would leave school in the afternoon, go to music, play the piano, come back, do homework. Then after homework, practice some more on the instrument. We would say, okay, well, let's go and hang out a little bit. It's an interesting sociological study of the time students spend in high school. In India, engineering and mathematics is like what gets you to the next level. Whenever you have a chance, look at these Indian CEOs in the US. Almost all of them came from what we call IIT, India Institute of Technology. Only a fraction of the society goes to IIT. I know, because in graduate school at MIT, I had a few of them in my courses, and they are academic assassins. I mean, they are academic assassins. I mean, they're just so brilliant. So it's inculturated in them that their parents might be an engineer or a mathematics teacher. So you know that is what you have to study to be successful. So that is why every computer system right now cannot operate without India. India made the decision of software engineering. So you would find that the world's most amount of software engineering are located in India. They didn't want to handle the manufacturing of the computer, but the social engineering and the software part, you have to depend on India to do that. So the reality is that and that was a government decision, right? So what is this government, or what is the government in the diaspora? What are they trying to focus on that could allow their society to be on the edge, or to be on the lead of technology? It has to be a decision that the government makes. It has to be a decision that's also supported by industry. Silicon Valley is a great example. Everywhere there has been a replica of Silicon Valley, there has been heavy government funding. I remember in 2020, 2020, I was just before, I think it was in 2020, I was in Taiwan. Taiwan has one of the second to Silicon Valley area that was supported by the government. So if you're a business, you would get money to start your company. You would get money to do innovation. And it is one of the leading areas in the world in terms of technology innovation. The government has to be behind it. Silicon Valley didn't happen by itself. Silicon Valley was heavily funded by the government. And then industry began to spin off from that. But the government has to make a decision within the diaspora as to whether we want to lead in technology or whether we want to be consumers of technology. I believe that this is the greatest time for businesses, small businesses and Black businesses. Because before this innovation of AI and generative AI, I'm going to say AI has been around for a while, but before what we know right now as AI, as this competitive edge, we would have had to have like 100 employees to be competitive. We don't need that. It is the greatest time to be competitive. So for all the businesses that is sound of my voice, if you are not using AI as a force multiplier, you will be left behind. There's no doubt about it. You will be left behind. I have a signature on my email that says, AI will replace you, in parentheses, not right now. But somebody who is using AI going to replace you right now. And I think if you think about it as a business, AI is not going to replace you right now as a business, but another business, your competitor that's using AI, going to bury you. And that is how important this technology is for Black businesses. It is our force multiplier that we could now compete globally and competitively and be successful.
We've got to take that to heart. I love what you just said. Putting together the investment thesis.
Yes.
Right. And other countries are doing it. They're doing this at a high level, and it's yielding results. And we've got to look at what are we concentrating on, what's important, and really take a look at our culture and where we're at. Where is our attention?
Yes.
Where is our attention? This is why I like the Black Business Network. Either you could be watching us, or you can be watching Days of Our Lives.
Yes.
What are you going to get out of that?
Yeah.
What is your intention? As you said, when you understand that your competitor, who's now in overseas, is learning art, music, science, technology, engineering, and you're learning about Days of Our Lives.
Yeah. If I could add on that quickly. This is Christmas time and we're buying gifts to our kids. I think we talked about this before. I never liked gaming, right? I always ran my son out of the room when he was doing his game. We're consumers of gaming. We are consumers. That's what we do. We consume gaming. But if instead of buying gaming, we go on Amazon and we find a tool set of how to create games, you are now not only empowering your child for the future, but you empowering that child how to create something that they could now view that they have created. Listen, Grant, gaming is a $140 billion industry. Every time we buy one of those games, we are creating that industry. Why don't we create the games and build within the diaspora? The diaspora has so many stories. In the Caribbean, we have one famous How Nancy Lost His Tail. Man, I still don't know how Anansi lost his tail. But that has gone through generations and generations and generations. We could build different iterations of how Anansi possibly lost his tail. And we could tell that story continuously. What is happening in Florida with the taking out of the schools of our history as Black folks, we could now create gamings that could then take this on to generations if it stays out of the classrooms. We need to be creators and innovators instead of only consumers. That's my point. And this technology and this area that we live in allows us to do that. We have no excuse not to be leaders in technology. We have zero excuse. We used to have excuse that there were barriers. But now look, I could go online on ChatGPT and I could say, give me the liquidity, let's use synthetic data, and give me the liquidity of the potential of a level 6 earthquake hitting X part of the world. What would the government have to have in place in order to be liquid, right? That means how much money the government needs to put in place. So I'm using my data science background with the availability of a tool that's online. I could not have done that 2 years ago because I didn't have the synthetic data volume to do that. We could use that to run different scenarios for our business. We could say, what will be the sales projection if I go into Africa? And you could use synthetic data that will give you an estimation and tell you how to do that. And now you can go and grab the real data to do that. We could do all these scenarios for our business that could make us much more successful that we didn't have 2 years ago or a year ago.
Excellent. Excellent. I see she is back.
Oh, yes, I am back because I am enjoying this wonderful chat, and I'm sure that the audience is too. So I am hoping to be able to ask just a few questions to be able to be all part of this.
Go right ahead.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Curtis.
Yes.
One of the things that you keep talking about is the Caribbean, and I was born in the Caribbean. I was born in South America, actually, Guyana.
Awesome.
I grew up in Barbados. I lived for 17 years in Barbados.
Oh, wow.
And it's so amazing because I didn't know that there was yet another campus that was there. So I'm happy to hear that. My question to you, I want to go down a little bit more on the personal side. Like, what would have geared you in terms of your personal journey that would have caused you to come into this career?
So for me, I had a great interview with God earlier this year, and it's amazing that you're from the Caribbean, so you have to be at the conference next year. But if you're from the Caribbean, you understand common entrance exam. We're dating ourselves a little back. So in the discussion I had with God, I told him, I failed common entrance. You're looking at someone who has served at every level of the university, including university president, have worked at Microsoft, IBM, VP for innovation at a DoD contractor, never failed common entrance, never went to high school. I think somewhere in there wired me for where I am right now. There were people who believed in me every step of the way. So I went on to Howard. I went on to MIT. I did my PhD at Morgan State. I did my master's in data science at Northwestern University. And I think it was my journey at MIT. Listen, MIT is the mecca of technology. It doesn't train followers. It trains leaders to come out and lead in technology. And for me, I think my journey began there because I had a simple concept for my research. You're from the Caribbean, so you're familiar with this. In the Caribbean and in Trinidad, farmers plant in the rainy season and plant in the sunny season, reap in the rainy season. And every year, because of the floods, it wipes out crops and government have to compensate that. So that really was a problem for me. So I started thinking, how could we find that solution? So in 1985, I went with a group of students and faculty to Japan, and I went to the Science and Technology Expo. and saw this technology that grew food and nutrient solution. It was 10,000 tomatoes being piped, sunlight being piped in, going to nutrient solution. And I took off on that journey. This Japanese company paid for my graduate degree. And I think the innovation and the ability and the freedom to create took me on that journey. I no longer was this young guy who failed common entrance from Trinidad. I was this person who thought about the art of the possible. So I think failure is sometimes God's signal to move you in a different direction. If I had passed that exam, I would not have been such an evangelist for educating young people. So I think I had to fail that exam, because now failing that exam have wired me into the technology world that I know our people, brown people during the Caribbean and during the diaspora, needs to be leaders in. Listen, in the Caribbean, we are way behind in this technology. We need to exponentially accelerate our growth. And this conference is a way of bringing us together, because as you know, especially us who are outside the diaspora, it is hard for us to go back because they always call us a foreigner, right? What we are trying to do is to overcome that by bringing everybody from a week who are expert, Caribbean experts, because one of the things I did is that I did a survey of where Caribbean experts in tech. Andrew, we are everywhere. I mean, we are leading in tech everywhere. So could we bring those tech leaders from the Caribbean and friends from the diaspora for a week in 3 days in 3 days a week in Antigua and talk about collaboration? Could you imagine what could come out of that? That has never been done. Everyone I talk to, they say, Dr. Charles Curtis, we always wanted to do this. What we're trying to do is to bring us together and then map and reimagine, as Grant was saying, reimagine the digital transformation of the Caribbean. The Caribbean cannot be left behind in the fifth industrial revolution. We cannot be left behind. We just can't. And it's interesting that you're from Guyana, which is supposed to be the next leader in oil, which Trinidad was in the 60s and 70s. But Guyana has to exponentially educate his people because it didn't have the fortune to do that in the past. So I think we are talking the same language. I just believe that everybody have a calling. And I believe this is my calling. I believe my calling is not to walk around with a failure badge, but to understand that failure was God's signal to move me in a direction, to be an advocate for students and for businesses, and to be a technology leader. I mean, most people ask me all the time, well, why would you study architecture, have a PhD in higher education and data science? My wife asks me that all the time. Why don't you practice in architecture? Architecture is the most wonderful profession. If you think about me designing a house for you, I first have to understand you. I have to understand how you entertain, what type of views you like when you get up one morning. What proximity you need your bedroom to your living room. We have to do a geological test before we build the earth, before we build the foundation. We have to build the structure. We have to solve a problem. Every day I design a problem in education. Every day. And every day I'm designing a solution. So I'm architecting solutions as it relates to artificial intelligence and data science. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's so amazing. Like, I really believe that people who are change makers, they always have a passion and a purpose, and there's always something that would have driven them to this point. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. One of the things that you spoke about that really resonated with me earlier is the television. And I had worked with Les Brown, and I remember one of the first things he encouraged us to do as his students was to avoid, if not all possible, not look at television, because he said we're either going to be on one side or the other of the spectrum.
Yes.
We're either going to be making the money, or we're either going to be entertaining and making the money, or we're going to be entertained and spending the money. I'm so happy that you brought that up. What would you encourage a listening audience to do in terms of being able to get from that side where they're just sitting and spending, but transferring that to the point where they can actually earn and use their skills?
Yeah, great question. So I would tie that to an answer I gave got Grant earlier, and I think you would understand that as well. In the Caribbean, for example, we need to stop degrading failure, right? I mean, if you think about the people who fail common entrance, no one talks about us, right? We're cast aside. We need to basically celebrate both failure and have a part for failure as well as success. I think the other thing we need to do in order to answer your question as well is I believe that one of the things that's missing in technology are more female. And part of that is our fault as well, right? What do we do with our young baby girls and stuff? We give them a doll, right? Because we don't want them to be tomboys. I never understood that question. But if you give them a robotic set that they could begin to build a robot, now you're beginning to develop an engineer. So stop telling our girls that they must play with dolls and give them the opportunity and freedom to explore engineering and science, technology, and math. I think in terms of the consumer piece, be careful what you purchase your kids this Christmas as well. Because what you purchase them at a small age will resonate into their mindset, which side of that television they're, whether the consumer side or whether the creative side. So when you buy gifts and when you celebrate Christmas and you're buying all these things, understand that you are laying a foundation for our grandson this Christmas and our granddaughters. Everything we bought was developmental. Everything. Every toy. So it wasn't like we went in Toys R Us or one of those and just said, let's see what we buy. Everything was to develop their mind. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to be more conscious of how we mold these young minds from the beginning. Don't just put them in front of a TV and let them watch Sesame Street. Have games in between. You know, we have two of our young boy grandsons here today, and my wife and myself always get to this. I always say, well, why don't you bring the boys over? Why don't you? My wife says, you go upstairs and you start working. She said, this is a full contact sport. You have to entertain them all day. So part of the day they are building trucks. Part of the day they're in the playpen. Part of the day she's reading to them. We have to have that mindset of wanting to create the next generation. And I think that's the only. It has to be purposeful, Andrew. Our actions have to be purposeful if we want our children and that next generation to be on the creation part, the innovation part of that television set, rather than just viewing.
Oh my, I absolutely love that. That's something I did with my kids. I had a little rule where Mondays to Thursdays, there was absolutely no TV in the house. And Friday, once they got home from school, to Sunday at 9 p.m., television was allowed. Yeah. So that really did help them to excel. They're all on AA on a roll. So I'm really very happy with that. I'm going to have Grant, is there any other questions you want to ask Curtis?
No, I just want, I've talked to Curtis a number of different times. I'm always very impressed. And I want the audience to understand that if it wasn't for Dr. Curtis's brother, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Yes. His brother is very, very intelligent when it came to mathematics. And I appreciate that because our family members often are very big influencers as we move forward, and they can help us. Each of us have an opportunity and responsibility to help each other. One thing I wanted to, and I'm going to give a shout out to my mom, because when me and my brother were little, the things that we were engaged, I still remember this to this day. My mother buying me a chemistry set, and I understood how to, and I could experiment with it and do all this stuff, and I would make smoke and these things, and it was very, very interesting. I remember having an encyclopedia in my house. This was the internet, for me. I had an encyclopedia. I had this thing called a Psycho Teacher, and I would sit there and tinker because at the time, now date myself, we only had black and white TV. Color was coming on. We had 3 stations. You kind of knew when the cartoons were on and when they weren't. And, so there was a certain time period that I would engage with TV, but not all the time. And I couldn't always go outside for my friends. But I would do these things because I could utilize my imagination, and it wasn't so concrete. It wasn't just given, like Dr. Kurz said, a set of instructions, and those are the only instructions. We have to understand there's many roads that can lead to a destination, not just one road. And if we understand that, and we really understand what these algorithms are like, and we start to really understand that we have to participate in this development of what I would call almost like a universal mind that we're all participating in. We need to educate it, because right now it is not fully trained. It's not fully trained into understanding data or inputs outside of its norm.
Yeah.
You see, this is so important. If you rewind this tape, you'll see what me and Dr. Charles talked about. This might be the most important thing we need to understand. We have to engage with this technology in order for it to understand us and elevate us. Because if we take it off the table and we don't put data into it, we don't have the inputs into it, and it doesn't understand Guyana, it does not understand Antigua, and then when we engage, it's not giving us the information that we need. So important.
You know, if Andrew, if I may, because Grant mentioned Guyana in its development is such an interesting point right now, because when Trinidad was the oil king or queen in the Caribbean, we didn't have AI and we didn't have these technologies. Guyana is on the verge of exploding as an economic force within the Caribbean. And this technology could take Guyana leaps and bounds beyond what either one of us could really imagine. Mm. So I think I am excited about being an evangelist to technology for our people, especially in the Caribbean, because I know the potential. But on the same terms, I also know that from a cultural perspective, we need to change our mindset, because my people still view me as an outsider. And that's because I live most of my life in the US. And even though I'm back in Antigua helping to build this campus, there would be insinuations that, he's a foreigner, So culturally, for us to move forward, we cannot move forward only with the knowledge we have in the Caribbean. We must be able to embrace all of us who are in the diaspora coming back home to say, look, we could help you. You don't need McKinsey. You may need McKinsey if you want, but you also have us. You don't need all these consultants that we see driving and you're spending billions of dollars to. You have us. And I think if it's one thing I'm trying to do with this conference in terms of inviting the ministers, is that the government see the talent that's in the diaspora and that we are able to tap into those resources. And because we understand the culture of our Caribbean, we could then develop the type of solutions that could move us forward, rather than some of the solutions that has been developed for us that has stagnated us. And I have to tell you, one of the things that has shocked me coming back home, and I spent 40 years in the US, was how little we have moved. It was painful. I was like, we have all these consultants that we bring to our region. Why aren't we further? And I'm not judging by the US standards or North America. I'm just saying, it's been 40 years, Dad. We should have been so much further. Mm-hmm. This conference has the opportunity to bring our tech leaders together and say, let's reimagine the Caribbean. And so we have ministers. Every panel should have ministers and industry and academic. That's the tripod we want to have. So we work very closely with the government here. We work very closely with the government. The Prime Minister says he wants to be a data-driven government. every government within the Caribbean should be wanting to do that. How could we become data driven so that the prime minister could press a button, go into a spreadsheet, or pull a dashboard and see what's happening in labor or what's happening? Those are not fantasies.
Things
Those
that
are
can happen.
fantasies. Those are things that are possible, and I think we have the know-how, and we could help these governments move forward. So that's my real passion about my region.
Thank you so much. There's so much in what you're saying, and I've personally experienced it in terms of just revisiting my country and seeing the progress that I've made and knowing that they could be much further.
Yes.
But unfortunately, we're coming up until the hour and we need to do our closing. So, Curtis, would you just tell us in closing, what is it that you want the audience to take away? Maybe if they can be part of the conference, how they can be part of it, how you can be reached, etc.
Yes, I think, thank you so much. So the conference, the website address conference is 5islandsconference.com. That's 5islandsconference.com. And you could reach me in the US at 910-431-9718. That's 910-431-9718. And I'm on Instagram as well. I post every day about something related to AI, and it's at Dr. Curtis Charles UWI. You could search for me there as well. Every day I post, every day. So there are tons of information about artificial intelligence. But I just want to leave with the audience, with the business audience first, and then the students. The business audience that, look, this is the greatest time for us to be competitive as small businesses and Black businesses. We have never had a period like this that gives us technology that is tangible, that we could use as a force multiplier, as the military says. And I think for students listening to me, understand that failure is okay. You're looking at someone who failed, never went to high school, who was able to go on to be a department head, a dean, a university president, work in corporate America, and help him build the next prototype of University West Indies and Five Island campus. Building capacity and producing and helping build opportunities for people in the Eastern Caribbean, where only 2 in 10 citizens move on to tertiary education. We have a desire to increase that in 5 years to 6 in 10. It's a huge task, but we can do that together, and we can do that exponentially. So again, I want to thank you for the opportunity for being here. Andrew, it's great to have a sister Caribbean speaking to, and we believe that Grant is an adopted Caribbean brother, so we're going to take him in the Caribbean as well. So thank you all so much.
Well, thank you both. Grant, thank you so much for this wonderful interview. And Curtis, thank you so much for being here and sharing your knowledge with us. And I want to say now, genius is common, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
The Black Business Expo's mission is to raise funds for high school seniors going to college or K-12 entrepreneurs. This expo is a fundraiser for students. You may go to www.blackbusinessexpousa.com to donate to the scholarship fund or use the Cash App BBXUSA. Our goal is to give laptops and up to $5,000 to 10 students. Students can register online at www.blackbusinessexpousa.com. Every dollar counts, so we want to remind you to donate to the scholarship fund. We want to thank our sponsors for the Black Business Expo December 2023. NC100, Moody Capital Partners, Suede Soul, Lotus Rich Coaching and Training, Carolina, Virginia Minority Supplier Development Council, Step Management, BHS and Associates, Marjorie McLean Foundation, Inc., 5-Star BDM Media, Hello LLC, Genius is Common, Earth Essentials, Milan Chennai Global, Executive Women Success Institute, The Quality Coaching Company, Superwoman Business Services, Creative Force Studios, Lee Entertainment, Artistic App Design, Black Business Expo USA, Genius is common, and I'll see you on the other side.
Did you know women represent just 3% of Fortune 500 CEOs and less than 15% of corporate executives at top companies worldwide? Have you wondered what the secrets are to getting into the top ranks, whether in the private or public sector? Do you want to figure out how to stop being held back in your career or passed over for promotion? Then you're in the right place. Hi, I'm Dr. Madeline Ann Lewis, President and CEO of the Executive Women's Success Institute. I have decades of experience in the military, the federal government, and corporate America, and my mission is to help women succeed and tap into their full potential. I want to reach 1 million plus women around the world to become the leaders they are meant to be. So if you want to move into a management or executive level position, or maybe you are a female veteran transitioning out of the military into business entrepreneurship, then reach out to the Executive Women's Success Institute at 301-693-3284. Let us get you on the fast track to success.